So, you've got yourself an iPhone, you watch tons of tutorials on how to grade Apolog, but when you open the camera app, there's no such thing. Apolog doesn't make your footage cinematic. Light does, composition does, movement does, and the way you grade it does. In this video, I'll show you how to level up your iPhone footage, the right gear, the right app, the filmmaking and color grading fundamentals that actually make a difference. Let's get into it. If you don't have the latest Pro model with Apolog, don't worry about it. Apolog gives you just a bit more dynamic range and slightly more room to push in the grade, but for most footage, standard Rec. 709 gets the job done. We'll talk color grading a bit later in the video. Let's start with gear. For stable shots, it depends on the look you are going for. A gimbal gives you smooth flowing movement, a handheld gives you energy, but if you are just starting out, a simple tripod is your best friend. I've got a basic one from Manfrotto with a phone clamp attached. Does the job perfectly. Now, the one piece of gear I'd call essential for shooting outdoors, an ND filter. Here's why. When you're shooting in bright conditions, your camera wants to crank down the exposure by raising the shutter speed. And a fast shutter speed makes your footage look sharp and choppy, not cinematic. The rule of thumb is called 180-degree shutter rule. Your shutter speed should be roughly double your frame rate. Shooting at 24 or 25 frames per second, your shutter should sit around 1/50th of a second. That's the sweet spot. It gives your footage that natural motion blur that makes movement feel smooth and filmic. But in bright light, 1/50th will completely overexpose your image. That's where the ND filter comes in. Essentially, sunglasses for your lens. It cuts the light without changing anything else, so you can hold that shutter speed no matter how bright it gets. I'm using filters from a company called Freewell. They sent me this iPhone case that lets you magnetically attach a variable ND filter with a circular polarizer built in, which is even better, because you can dial in the ND strength on the fly, and the CPL side of it reduces reflections on the surfaces and makes skies more vibrant. And in their hybrid kit you also get filters like a Pro Mist and a split soft GND, useful when the sky is blowing out and you need to bring that dynamic range back under control. And one more thing worth mentioning before we get into the app, iPhones can shoot in ProRes, a high-quality video format that holds much more detail and gives you more flexibility in the post. The trade-off is the file size. A few minutes of ProRes footage can fill up your iPhone faster than you'd expect, so an external drive is worth having. I put together my own setup, a separate SSD enclosure with a 1 TB drive inside. It attaches via MagSafe so it stays clean and out of the way. It also has additional ports so you can charge your iPhone while you are recording. Simple solution, works really well. To take proper manual control of your iPhone, you need something better than the native camera app. This is where the Blackmagic Camera comes in. Head to the App Store and download it. It's completely free, and honestly, it's the best thing you can put on your phone for filmmaking. Full control over shutter speed, ISO, frame rate, and features that some professional cameras don't even offer. Let's walk through the most essential settings together. First, frame rate. If you are going for cinematic, film-like look, go with 24. European shooters tend to use 25. For vlog style content, talking head shots or anything fast moving, 30 is safer choice. And if you want to slow motion in the edit, shoot at 60 or even 120. Following the 100-degree shutter rule, your shutter speed should be double your frame rate. But if you don't want to recalculate every time you switch, there's a setting called shutter angle. Set it to 180 degrees and the app handles it automatically. The one case where I'd switch back to manual shutter speed control is flickering. Neon signs, streetlights, certain indoor lighting, sometimes they pulse at a frequency that clashes with your shutter. If you see it, just nudge your shutter speed up or down until it disappears. Next, choose your codec. If you have an external SSD connected, go with ProRes 422 or HQ at 4K resolution. That's the highest quality your iPhone can output. If you are shooting to internal storage, H.265 is the smarter choice. It's much easier on storage, still looks great and works well for most situations. And for color profile, if your iPhone supports Apolog, use it. It gives you more dynamic range and more room to work within the grade. If it's not available on your model, Rec. 709 is perfectly fine. The workflow is simpler and for most videos it gets you exactly where you need to be. A few more things worth setting up. Use your main camera lens. Usually it's the 24mm. It has the best sensor on the phone, so if the quality matters, that's the one to use. Next, turn on the thirds grid and the leveling cross. Keeping your horizon straight is one of those small things that makes a big difference in how polished your footage looks. For white balance, I usually leave it on auto, but in the settings I always enable lock white balance on record. You don't want your colors shifting mid-shot. Keep your ISO as low as possible to minimize noise and use your ND filter to control exposure rather than letting the camera do it. Check your histogram, your exposure should be spread evenly across it, not pushed too far to either side. And if you want to go one step further, use false color. It's an exposure monitoring overlay that replaces your image with colors where each color represents a specific brightness level. Instead of guessing from the image or reading a histogram, you can see at a glance exactly what's underexposed, correctly exposed or clipping. It's a professional tool and it's right there for free. Last thing, if you are recording to an external SSD, go into settings and make sure your recording location is set correctly. Alright, gear is sorted, app is set up, now the part that actually separates good footage from OK footage. First, lighting. This is the single biggest factor in how your footage looks, and you don't need to buy any of it. Natural light is free and it's some of the best light you'll ever shoot in. What you're looking for is contrast, a bright area and a dark area in the same frame. That's what gives an image a depth. The best times to shoot outdoors are early morning and late afternoon, when the sun is low, warm and directional, and midday light is harsh and unflattering. If that's all you have, at least find some shade. Next, composition. There are a couple of guides worth leaning on as a beginner, like the rule of thirds. Imagine your frame divided into a grid of 9 and place your subject where those lines intersect, rather than dead center. It immediately gives the image a more pleasing, balanced feel. Leading lines are another one. Roads, fences, corridors, anything that pulls the eye through the frame. And before you press record, ask yourself, what is this shot actually about? What do I want the viewer to look at? If you can't answer that, reframe until you can. Now, the tripod. Some of the most cinematic shots are completely static. Nothing moves except what's inside the frame. A person walking through, light shifting, a moment unfolding. The stillness is what makes it land. You don't always need movement. Sometimes locking off the camera is the most intentional thing you can do. And if you prefer handheld, this grip makes it fun to shoot with. Bluetooth shutter button, solid balance in your hand, it feels something a little closer to shooting with a mirrorless camera. And one last thing, I genuinely mean, just go outside and shoot. Not after one more tutorial, not when the light is perfect, just right now. The fastest way to improve, to make more footage. The phone is already in your pocket. I've been color grading for years, and when it comes to color grading, DaVinci Resolve runs the show. If you are new to it, I have quite a few tutorials on my channel worth checking out. But stick with me here and I'll walk you through a simple setup. I usually work in the studio version, but for a simple Rec. 709 workflow, the free version of Resolve does everything you need. If you don't have it, download it from the Blackmagic website. Before we go grading, let's make sure our settings are good to go. Go to Project Settings and check your resolution and frame rate are correct. Then head to Color Management. For a simple Rec. 709 workflow, set both your timeline and output color space to Rec. 709 Scene. One more setting I would change is LUT interpolation. Set it to tetrahedral for more accurate LUT processing. Now let's build a simple node tree. Right-click on the node and select Add Serial Node, or just hit Option S on a Mac or Alt S on Windows. Add 3 more nodes and let's get to work. In the first node, I want to tackle one of the most noticeable things about smartphone footage: sharpness. Go into the Blur tab and add 2 or 3 points of blur. It softens that over-sharpened digital edge and already makes the image feel more natural. Now, name your remaining 3 nodes: exposure, balance, and saturation. These are your primary corrections. Starting with exposure, the most accurate and color space aware tool for overall brightness in Resolve is the HDR exposure slider. I'll bring mine up by about 0.4 stop. Add a touch of contrast in Primaries panel. And in the log wheels, I'll lift the shadows slightly to bring back some detail. For balance, I'll use the same HDR wheel again and check for any unwanted color cast. Using my eyes and the vectorscope, I'll make small adjustments until the image feels natural and clean. Then a touch of saturation. Instead of standard saturation knob, I'll use the one inside the color slice tool. It gives a much more pleasing result. Primary corrections are done. Now let's apply a film look. For this, we need 2 separate nodes. The first one prepares the footage for the film emulation. We need to convert it into Cineon Film Log. Apply a color space transform plugin and set the input to Rec 709 and the output to Rec 709 but Cineon Film Log. In the next node, apply the Kodak 2383 Film LUT from the Film Looks folder. I'll go with slightly warmer D55 version. Next, spatial contrast. This is about shaping the light within your frame to create depth. For this, I'll create 3 parallel nodes that work together as a combined result. In the first node, I'll apply a gradient power window and pull down the brightness using the gain wheel. I will also bring the saturation down slightly. It tends to creep up when you darken an area. In the middle node, I'll place a circular power window over the subjects, invert it, and reduce the background brightness using the gamma wheel, drawing the eye naturally toward them. In the last node, I'll simulate a shallow depth of field, something small camera sensors naturally struggle with. I'll make another gradient power window, this time with some blur applied to the background. One final touch. I want the magenta coat to pop a little more. So in the color slice tool, I'll increase the saturation and density for the magenta range. And if you are on the studio version of Resolve, I would swap the first sharpness node for color tone diffuser. Adjusting resolution slider with a touch of diffusion works like a charm on sharp smartphone footage and makes it much more pleasing. Another cool plugin that Studio version offers, Cinematic Haze. It gives a very cool atmosphere to the image. And just like that, with a few simple steps, you can transform your footage from casual to filmic. And one more quick tip. You can actually save this film look as a LUT and use it on your iPhone while you're filming. Simply keep your CST and film look nodes and delete everything else. Then click on your clip thumbnail and select Generate LUT. A 33-point cube works just fine in the Blackmagic Camera app. Just don't record with the LUT baked in, use it as a reference only. And that's everything you need to get started. Now the only thing left is to go out and start shooting. And if you want to take your color grading to the next level, I've got a full DaVinci Resolve tutorial waiting for you right here. See you in the next one.